All right, in this video we'll focus on 1.5. So if we look here, we're going to start off with a little review from 1.4. When we talked about multiplying integers with negatives and positives. And I want you to pause the video, try to solve all 6 of these, and then press play to see if you are correct. All right, so now that you've had a chance to go through them, I know that a negative times a positive is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is also a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive answer. And then finally, a positive times a negative is a negative answer. So hopefully this is making more sense to you about how when we multiply, and it's going to be very similar whenever we actually divide. So let's go through, and our essential question today is, is the quotient of two integers positive, negative, or 0? And how can you really tell? So let's start off with a problem. And I begin with 15 counters, and they want to put them into 3 equal groups, right? So if I go through here and I figure out 3 equal groups, I have to go through and circle. So I will have, let's say, if I look here, I have 5 here, 5 here, and 5 here. So if I have 15 negative signs and I have 3 groups, each one of them has -5 in each one, right? And that's the answer. -15 divided by 3 is -5. So because there are -5 counters in each group. All right, so the next one says rewrite this product as a quotient in 2 different ways. So this is kind of like when we look at the fact family thing. So I could do 2 different things. It says 12 is equal to 3 groups of 4. And 12 is equal to 4 groups of 3, right? These are fact families. We've learned these for a while now. That we could do 3 times 4 equals 12. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. And 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And I guess the last one I didn't do yet was 4 times 3 equals 12. So these are all the different ways you could write it. And they're going to show us that we can actually do this with negative signs as well. So let's take a look at that. So it says here, work with a partner, rewrite the product as -3 times -4 equals 12. So I want to write that down first of all, just so I don't get confused. So I'm going to put down -3 times -4 equals a positive 12, right? And it says 12 divided by, let's take out one of these, let's say -3. So I'll say 12 divided by -3 equals -4. And 12 divided by -4 equals -3. So in each case, when you divide whatever integer by a, like let's say I divide a positive by a negative, you get a negative answer. That's your thing here. Because I have a positive divided by a negative equals a negative. A positive divided by a negative equals a negative. And it says here, now let's rewrite this one. So I have 3 times -4 equals -12. Now notice that instead of the time sign, they have this. This is really important because as we start getting to algebra, we're going to start using letters. So I prefer this dot, and we'll start doing that in future lessons. So it says here, -12 divided by, well, let's just do the 3 first of all. And we know that that has to be a negative answer, right? So -4. And if I divide -12 divided by -4, I get 3. And let's just examine this a little bit further. -12, so a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. This is the same rule as multiplication. So when you divide a positive by a negative, I'm sorry, I should say this backwards. When you divide a negative integer by a positive integer, you get a negative integer as an answer. And when you divide a negative by a negative, you get a positive. So we learned that negative divided by negative is a positive, So think about this for a while. Really try to absorb what's being said here. So let's try out a few more to make sure you really get this. Again, I have a positive divided by a negative. So this answer has got to be a negative something, right? And you figure that out. Is this one going to be negative or positive? Right, negative. How about this one? Is this a negative or positive answer, and how do you know? So do me a favor and pause the video, complete the rest of this, and then press play when you're ready. Great, thanks for taking a chance to do that. Here we go. So this one here is going to be, so 12 divided by negative 3 is going to be negative 4. Oh, there it is. And the next one is negative 8. Next one is 7. This should be a negative 5, negative 9, and then finally this will be a positive 12. And the reason why these all work out the way they do is a negative divided by a negative is a positive divided by a positive is a negative, and hopefully you understand how this works by now. Here are the key ideas. If you have two numbers, so like two positives, the answer is positive. If you have two negatives, the answer is positive. If you have one positive and one negative, the answer is a negative. So this is a key idea, very similar to multiplication, because really multiplication and division are kind of the same thing. So let's look here. So I have negative 18 divided by negative 6. Again, they're both negative. Therefore, your answer must be positive, so that would be a positive 3. Let's try another one. So now I have a negative divided by, or a positive divided by a negative, and I have a negative divided by a positive. So in both cases, your answer should be negative, right? Because you have one positive and one negative. So here's the first one. The integers have different signs, and I do 75 divided by 25, which is 3, and then I make it negative because they both have different signs. Same with this one. 6 goes into 54 9 times, right? But my answer is going to be negative 9. All right, so then let's divide 14 by 2. So 14 divided by 2, of course, is 7. This right here would be a positive 8. This here is a positive 5. Ooh, tricky. Give that a try. This one a try, and this. So pause the video and try to solve it. All right, here we go. So we have 7, 8, 5, 0, negative 7, and negative 7. So let's evaluate this one. So negative x squared divided by y when x is 8 and y equals negative 4. Now on the surface this looks really confusing. Like what? So let's actually put this in. So we're going to say 10 minus, and we're going to do x squared. So this is 8 squared divided by negative 4. So let's first of all go through here, and I want to do order of operations. So some people know it as PEMDAS, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So if I look here, I don't have any parentheses. I do have exponents though. So I'm going to rewrite this and I'll say 10. And then 8 times 8 is 64. But this is minus, so I have 64. And then divided by 4. The negative 64 divided by negative 4 is 16. So positive 16. So I'll have 10 plus 16. And I should get 26 at the end. And here's the final one. So I have, what is the expression when a equals negative 18 and b equals negative 6? So I have negative 18 divided by negative 6. So it's two negatives, so it becomes... All right, so here's the next one. You measure the height of a tide using support beams of a pier. Your measurements are shown in the picture. What is the mean hourly? So let's start off with making my mean hourly change, which is what I'm looking for, right? So I have my final height, which is 8, minus my initial, which is 59, and my elapsed time. How many hours have gone by here? So that's 6, right? So I have 8 minus 59. So I'm going to have negative 51 divided by 6. And it's got to be a negative answer. So I have negative 8.5. And it really goes down. What it's saying is it goes down 8.5 inches every 1 hour. So the height of the tide at the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick decreases 36 feet in 6 hours. What is the mean hourly change in height? Negative 36 divided by 6, and I get negative 6. And it means negative 6 feet for every 1 hour. And the last one is, how are the rules for multiplication and division of integers related? So the rules are the same because the operations are inverses. You can use fact families, as we showed before, to rewrite division problems as multiplication, and vice versa.